Today we're going to be talking about the highest paid tradesman, as in which trade makes the most money. We're going to talk about 9 in particular, starting from the lowest, going all the way to the highest paid. Now this is something that come about because I was reading a forum and it was basically saying plasterers make more than plumbers. So I was like, be honest, I don't believe it at all. But then I did think, who is paid the most and who gets the most money? So this one I started doing research, I really started to look into it. And I've come across quite a few articles. I'll be honest, a lot of them conflict each other. But the one with the most references and the one I trusted the most was this one. And this is one I'm going to go off. So now we're going to go through the highest and worst paid trades in the UK with valuations and roughly how much they're earning in the area they're making it. So let's start on a big one. Coming in at the lowest, I'm afraid, is the painters, decorators. So the average salary is 23 grand for a painter decorator in the UK, the highest being 28,000 in Peterborough. But the painter decorators, I'm afraid, are the ones that come off at the bottom. They are the lowest paid, unfortunately. It's just the way it is. So that's at number 9, is the painter decorators. Now number 8, the next one up, scaffolders. The average salary being £28,154, that's around the UK. Scaffolders are next in line in terms of how much you can earn in the UK. So it's a fairly big jump actually from the decorators to scaffolding. But let's bear in mind, scaffolding is a lot of hard work, prone to a lot of injury. I'm guessing by the end of your time you might be a bit knackered. So probably explains why the scaffolders are a bit higher than decorators there. And you probably do need your papers if you're working on some sites. Now the next one up is roofer. The national average being £29,000. The roofers are the next ones up. Again, quite a tough trade, and the problem is with roofing is the weather. And we're going to go into as we're going through this, we're going to look at how the weather affects your pay basically. But yeah, the roofers coming in 29 grand. Again, like the scaffolders, weather can interrupt your job, affect how you're going to be getting on with work. So next one is my trade, the plastering. It's £29,610, apparently the national. This is how much you'd get paid in London if you was a plasterer. So they're the next ones on the list. Now, me being a plasterer myself, I'm actually self-employed, so I make my own rates. And if you want to know more about that, follow to the end of this video and I'll point you in a direction where I'll show exactly how much I earn. But basically, plasterers are next in line, making £29,610. Again, it's a tough trade. You can hurt yourself, and by the end of it you could be absolutely knackered. So I think it's fair that they make the amount of money they do, and actually it's fair that all the tradesmen do. I'm not being biased in any way whatsoever, but we are very much in the middle with the plasterers. The next ones up are the chippies, the woodworkers. They're the next ones in line, and it's quite a big jump from this now. The average salary for a chippy, trades, and woodworker apparently is £33,000 around the UK. That's a national average apparently for a chippy, so it's quite a big jump from a plasterer to be a carpenter there. Quite a lot to learn in carpentry, and I, as a man who does a bit of carpentry, I actually completely agree with this, because you've got pitching, you're fitting doors, you're fitting windows, you're building timber frame houses, stud walls. You can even, if you're carpentry, you can go into your joinery side. There's a hell of a lot to learn with carpentry, and I must admit, I do believe chippies should be making more than a lot of the tradesmen, because the amount of work they've got to learn, and you've got to get good at it. You can pretty much do all the trades. Carpenters end up doing the guttering, they end up doing setting out for the roofers, they end up being site managers, I think, the chippies, because they have the whole build to run, and they have to make sure they're on it and make sure they know how the build is worked, setting out the steels, make sure everything's in place. So I do believe they should be higher up on the agenda there, and if not, should be paid more, but that's just my opinion. So that's the chippies, carpenters on the list now. Next one's up, the plumbers. Obviously the plumbers we knew would be making good money, we knew that. There's always a fight between the plumbers and the electricians, isn't there? Thinking who earns the most money, but we knew they'd be at the top now. So the average salary for a plumber in the UK, you're looking at about £34,800. Yeah, I actually thought that was quite low for a plumber there. I thought they'd be making a bit more, to be fair, but you know, it's say. Again, these are rates going off the website. I'll post a link on at the back, but this is what I'm going off. These are just national averages, and again, take it with a pinch of salt. Every article conflicts itself. I just found this one to be the best one. But again, plumbers, higher up on the spectrum here, making a lot more money than, say, a decorator. And again, qualifications, your papers that you need, and you can be, you know, potentially putting a lot of people in danger if you do your job wrong. So I understand, again, with the plumbers, they do deserve the money, to be fair. Next one's on the list, electricians. We're looking at about £34,900 here for the electricians, so close to the plumbers. I knew they'd be close, but yeah, as it stands, electricians are apparently making more than the plumbers. at this moment in time. Again, you need your papers to do electrics. You need your papers to be fitting fuse boards, especially if you're doing just standard domestic. But if you're doing commercial, you're working on a bigger scope, then you'll need all your papers to make sure you're getting on site there. So again, there's a lot of training in the electrical side, and you could potentially be putting a lot of people's lives at risk if you'd be doing your job wrong. So I understand completely why they get paid, and even though they get a lot of stick, I do believe that they do deserve the money, to be fair, because you are potentially, you could harm someone with electrics. If you get electrocuted at high voltage, you kill someone. So, you know, there's a reason for that. Now these next two baffled me and they surprised me. I didn't know it'd be so high up on the agenda. This second one in the list is absolutely crazy. The second one is Glaziers, and this baffled me because I've looked at a few articles and actually they all agree that the Glaziers are some of the highest paid tradesmen in the UK and around the world even. They're making 37 grand as a national average there. I mean, it's crazy. I didn't think it'd be so high on the list. But they are, so they're some of the highest paid tradesmen going. And I think it's because there's a shortage of them. There's not a lot of people doing the job, so supply and demand, they could just surprise essentially what they need because they cannot get enough of them. If you are thinking about retraining or picking up a new trade, then this might be the one for you because there is a massive national shortage, which means they can make more money. And essentially, if you go on your own even, you can pretty much set your own price. So this is, again, it baffled me. But they did not make the top of the list. The top of the list, I'm sure you've noticed by now, there's one big tradesman missing, and that's the bricklayers. Yep, the bricklayers are the highest paid tradesmen in the UK. They make the creme de la creme, they're the top of the top. They're making a rough average of about 43 grand a year. So they are at the top. The bricklayers, again, I think due to this, in fact, you're working the elements. We know that England can be very rainy. You get affected by wind, cold snaps in the winter, which means you can't lay the mortar, you can't lay bricks if it's swimming with water, you cannot do your job. So I think because of that, they have to get paid a lot more to be the ability to be working outside. I read an article not too long ago that bricklayers were getting paid up to £500 a day working in Manchester because there's such a low amount of workers doing it. Again, it comes to the same thing as Glaziers. There's not a lot of bricklayers out there anymore, not a lot of them in the trade, which means they can be setting high wages and charging what they need. But like I said, there's so much building being done in Manchester at the moment, not enough bricklayers, and apparently £450 a day as a bricklayer in Manchester won't even get you through the door. You're looking at the 500 mark. So what do you think? Leave your comments below, let us know what you think. Are you in the trade? Are you any of these tradesmen? Do you agree with the pricing? Or is this a load of nonsense? And where do you think is the top of the list in terms of who gets paid the most and who gets the lowest? Let us know what you're earning as well, roughly, if you don't mind sharing. Let's get a bit of a chat going on, let's bounce off each other and let's find out what the real numbers are. Because this is from an article, it could be full of BS. But let's, again, leave your comments below, and if you like this video, hit the like button. And more importantly, like I said to you before, if you want to find out how much I earn as a plasterer, as in how much I make a day, how much I make a month, then click this video here and I'll show you everything on how much I earn. And if you like this video, hit the subscribe button for more. Cheers.